Welcome, Harkening Deers, to the Harkening Deer podcast, a practice of contemplative spiritual discipline through Christ-centered meditation. If you believe, as I do, that contemplative spiritual practice is something we need more of in our lives, there are a few easy things you can do to help spread the word of the Harkening Deer podcast. To name them, hit the subscribe button wherever you listen to this podcast and give a star rating, remembering that 5 out of 5 is the best and most helpful, and write a review. And finally, if the Harkening Deer is a podcast you find edifying in your spiritual walk, please consider making a monthly donation at patreon.com/harkeningdeer. Don't forget that the link is always in the show notes. Now that we've gotten the housekeeping portion of the episode out of the way with, let's briefly go over our facilitation of accommodating recommendations for meditation, or, as I love to call them, our farms. Farm number 1, no judgment. In a world so consumed with productivity, we often quantify the worth of our time spent with what we have gotten accomplished. Meditation, however, is the antithesis of this mentality. Meditation is a time to be contemplative and refreshed, and there is no wrong way to do it. No judgment of self or of others. Farm number 2, be still. The second farm is like the first. We live busy lives, but it is important to take time out on at least a semi-regular basis to be still and focus. And so I encourage you, wherever you are, unless you are driving, to close your eyes. I've been informed that sometimes people like to listen to the Harkening Deer podcast while driving, as it relaxes them and lowers their propensity to become angry on the road. If this is the case for you, and you do feel the need to close your eyes, I encourage you to pull to the side of the road first. I would also encourage you to listen to the podcast again later at a less distracting time. For those of us who are not driving, get comfortable in a position you can remain in for a few minutes with as little movement as possible. Be still. Farm number 3. Embrace a heart and mindset of peace, of joy, and of love. If any negative thought or feeling pops into your head while we are meditating, simply recognize it and let it go. I encourage you to embrace a heart and mindset of peace and loving kindness. Today I will be reading from the NIV version of the Bible. Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 19. And you are to love those who are foreigners, for you yourselves were foreigners in Egypt. And in Exodus chapter 23, verse 9, it says, do not oppress a foreigner. You yourselves know how it feels to be foreigners, because you were foreigners in Egypt. In the King James Version, the word foreigner in these passages is translated as stranger. Let us reflect on these passages using that word. Love the stranger, for you yourselves were strangers in Egypt. Do not oppress the stranger, for you know how it feels to be strangers, because you were strangers in Egypt. This feels like an especially important message today. If it were written in North America in 2019, it might read something like this. Love the stranger, especially if you know how it feels to be a stranger, to be an outcast, to feel like you do not belong. Do not make others feel this way. Do not oppress people who already feel like they are on the fringes of society. Show them love. Show them God's love. With these passages in mind, let us reflect on the words of Jesus in Matthew 25:35. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in.